Let's try to enter like it's Metal Midnight, the Shadow Hour, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for joining the Mixperience podcast once again. Today we have Metal Midnight
Hey guys.
and the Shadow Hour. Hang on to your seats for a spooky ride. Thanks for coming, Metal Midnight.
You're welcome. Hello, my darklings. I hope you're ready for some spooky stories. Keep your candles lit because the darkness is closing in.
See how that goes.
Let me know when to start reading.
She was down here one day, fell asleep. It's live.
Really?
Slept forever. I don't think it's processed yet. So.
I guess just set it to where it'll randomly invite people. I don't know.
The only thing is, like, when you invite people, they'll come on and want to talk.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of it. Thanks for joining the podcast, y'all. The Mixperience. Thanks for joining TikTok. Metal Midnight here live in the Mixperience podcast room. Thanks for joining in. Show some love. Let's see. Thanks for joining the Mixperience podcast once again. Today we have Metal Midnight
Hey guys.
and the Shadow Hour. Hang on to your seats for a spooky ride. Thanks for coming, Metal Midnight.
You're welcome. Hello, my darklings. I hope you're ready for some
Don't say you're welcome,
spooky
just say
stories.
you start off with your...
Keep your candles lit because the darkness is closing in.
I think we're ready.
Let me know when it's like for real. Because
This is going to be for real this time.
Okay. And then I just start reading the story.
Yep.
Okay.
Start the loop over again. You ready?
Yes.
They don't vote for everything. Ready? Welcome to the Mixperience podcast once again. Tonight we have Metal Midnight with Shadow Hour.
Hello, my darklings. This is Madam Midnight. Welcome to the Shadow Hour. Keep your candle burning because I have some spooky stories for you tonight. So let's begin. Tonight's first story is called The Last Customer. Alyssa hated the quiet. It wasn't the comforting kind, the kind that wrapped around you like a blanket out here. At Prairie Creek, Gas and Go, the silence felt watchful, like the dark beyond the flickering parking lots was holding its breath. Midnight to dawn, that was her shift. Worse pay, worse
You want to do that
hours.
over? Yeah. Because I had that big squeal in it.
Okay.
hear you.
Get close to the mic and see how if it makes any noises.
Hello.
Okay. Sometimes if you sit back, if you get real close, if I got it turned up a certain way, it'll make a squealing noise. But that was my fault. I got too close. I think we're good now.
So if I just talk, it'll...
Yeah. Okay. Welcome to the Mixperience podcast once again. Today we have Madam Midnight with the Shadow Hour. Thanks for coming, Madam Midnight.
Hey guys! So tonight I have some spooky stories for you, so keep your candle burning because the darkness is closing in. So tonight's first story is called The Last Customer. Alyssa hated the quiet. It wasn't the comforting kind, the kind that wrapped around you like a blanket. Out here at Brer Creek Gas and Go, the silence felt watchful, like the dark beyond the flickering parking lights were holding its breath. Midnight to dawn, that was her shift. Worst pay, worst hours, worst location, but it was all she could get. The first call came at 1:17 a.m. The phone rang sharp and sudden, making Alyssa jump so hard she knocked over her coffee. Gas and Go, this is Alyssa, she said, trying to sound awake. Silence. Not the normal kind. Not dead air. She could hear breathing. Slow, careful, too close to the receiver. Hello? She pressed. Click. The line went dead. Alyssa frowned, but shrugged it off. Wrong number, drunk caller. It happens sometimes. Until it happened again. And again. Always after midnight. Always breathing. Never a word. 3 nights later, the letters started. The first one was tucked under the front door when she arrived for her shift. No stamp, no address, just her name, Alyssa. Her stomach tightened. Inside was a single piece of paper that said, "You look tired tonight." A cold ripple slid down her spine. She glanced instinctively towards the parking lot. It was empty. That was when Officer Daniel Mercer started coming by more often. Daniel was nice, comforting, normal, mid-30s, soft smile, the kind of cop who actually remembered your name. "You holding up okay out here?" he asked one night, leaning casually on the counter. Alyssa forced a laugh. "Trying to. This place gives me the creeps, though." His eyes softened with concern. "Anything weird happening?" For a second, she hesitated. Then she told him about the calls, the letters, everything. Daniel's expression darkened in exactly the right way. "That's not okay," he said gently. "You did the right thing by telling me." Relief flooded her chest. Finally, someone was taking it serious. "I'll keep an eye on things," he promised. "You're not alone out here." And for the first time in weeks, she believed him. The letters grew bolder. You shouldn't trust the dark. You shouldn't trust strangers. You shouldn't trust him. The last one made her stomach drop. Him? She showed Daniel the note the next night. He studied it carefully. Jaw tight. "Probably just someone trying to scare you. We'll figure it out." But something in his voice sounded off. Too careful. Too controlled. The break came on a storm-heavy Thursday night. Rain hammered the roof. The neon sign outside flickered like a dying heartbeat. At 2:03 a.m., the phone rang again. Alyssa stared at it. It rang, and it rang, and it rang. Hands shaking, she picked it up. Hello? Breathing, closer than ever. And then a whisper. "Did you like my letters?" Ice flooded her veins. The voice sounded distorted, but familiar. Before she could speak, headlights swept across the windows. Officer Daniel Mercer, patrol car, rode into the lot. Relief crashed through her. She slammed the phone down and rushed to the door. Daniel stepped inside, rain dripping from his shoulders. "You okay?" he asked quickly. I just got another call," she stammered. He talked this time. Daniel's expression went very still. "What did he say?" Alyssa swallowed. He asked if I liked the letters." For a moment, something flickered behind Daniel's eyes. He stepped closer to the counter. Too close. "You know," he said quietly, "most stalkers escalate when they feel ignored." Her pulse thumped. "What?" Daniel smiled. Was still there, but it didn't reach his eyes anymore. "I had to make sure that you noticed me eventually, Alyssa." The world tilted. The rain outside roared louder. "No," she whispered. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and her stomach dropped as he placed it gently on the counter. Her name was written across the front in the same handwriting. "I was the only one who ever checked on you," Daniel said softly. "The only one who cared if you were safe out here in the middle of nowhere." His voice was almost tender, which made it worse. Alyssa's fingers slowly slid toward the panic button underneath the counter. Daniel's eyes dropped, and he smiled wider. "I wouldn't do that." Her blood turned to ice. "How did you—" "I've been watching you for weeks," he said gently. "You really should be more careful." The storm outside knocked the power out with a big click. The store went dark. Only emergency lights glowed red above the door. Daniel's silhouette didn't move, but his voice came from the shadows, soft, close, right behind her. "Now," he whispered, "let's not make this difficult." The emergency light red bled across the floor. Alyssa's breath came shallow and fast as Daniel's whisper curled around her ear. "Now, let's not make this difficult." She forced herself not to spin around, not to run, not to give him the panic that he wanted, because suddenly, terrifyingly, everything made sense. The timing of the patrols, the way he always knew when she was scared, the letters, the calls, him. Very slowly, Alyssa turned to face him. Daniel Mercer stood just a few feet away, rainwater still dripping from his uniform, his soft smile now stretched into something hungry and wrong. "You've been busy scaring yourself," he said. Her voice trembled, but only a little. "Why?" His eyes lit up, like he'd been waiting for her to ask. "I've killed a lot of women, Alyssa," he said calmly. "Most of them, they were over too fast, panicked, screaming and begging." He stepped closer, but she held her ground. "But you," his voice dropped to a near whisper, "you're special. I want to take my time with you. Enjoy it." Ice shot through her veins, but Alyssa forced her face into something else. Fear, yes, but also something softer, curious, interested. Daniel noticed immediately, predators always do. "You don't seem so scared as you should be," he murmured. Alyssa swallowed hard and let her eyes glisten. "I just," she whispered, voice shaking perfectly. "I don't understand why me." Hook, line, and sinker. Daniel's posture eased just a fraction. "You're observant," he said. "Quiet. You notice things other people don't." His gaze softened in that twisted way again, and you didn't run. Inside Alyssa's mind was racing because she had noticed things, like the way Daniel always parked under the security camera, the way he always stood to his back with his back to the door, the way he never looked up at the small black dome in the corner of the ceiling, the one recording everything and still recording. If she could just keep him talking. You must get lonely," she said softly. Daniel, exhausted, said, "You have no idea." Good. Keep him there. Keep him talking. Her fingers inched slowly across the counter, closer, closer to the coffee pot. Still half full, still hot. Daniel took another step forward. You know, he said gently, most of them are crying by now. Alyssa lifted her eyes to his and smiled just a little. That was the moment he realized something was wrong. What? Wham! She grabbed the coffee pot and hurled the scalding liquid towards his face. Daniel screamed, a real scream this time. He staggered back, clenching his eyes. You! Alyssa was already moving. She slammed the panic button with the heel of her hand. The alarm shrieked through the store. Daniel lunged blindly towards her, but she ducked under the counter, bolted for the back door, and shoved it open into the storm. Rain swallowed her whole as she ran into the dark. 10 minutes later, red and blue lights flooded the gas station. This time, Daniel Mercer was the one in handcuffs. Burned, furious, and very much exposed. The security footage had caught everything, every word, every confession. As they shoved him into the back of the cruiser, his eyes found Alyssa standing under the awning, wrapped in a blanket. And he smiled. Even now, still smiling. 3 months later, Alyssa was finally sleeping again. Not well, not deeply, but enough to get through the days. Her new apartment was small, but bright, tucked into a busy part of town, far from the lonely highways and flickering gas station lights. She changed her number, closed her social media, even used a different last name on the lease. Safe. That's what everyone kept telling her. Safe. The envelope appeared on a Tuesday morning. Plain, white, no stamp, no address, just her name, Alyssa. Her stomach dropped. She so fast it made her dizzy. Her hands shaking, she locked the door, checked the windows twice before slowly tearing the envelope open. Inside was one sheet of paper, familiar handwriting. Her breath hitched. You were worth the wait. Her knees nearly buckled. At the bottom of the page, Daniel Mercer, County Detention Center. No, she whispered. Her heart pounded violently as she backed towards the couch, the paper crumbling slightly in her grip. He was in jail. He was supposed to be contained, watched, locked away, so how? Something slipped from the envelope that fluttered to the floor. Alyssa froze. Slowly she bent down and picked it up. It was a photograph. Her blood turned to ice. It was her, taken from across the street, from outside her new apartment. The timestamp in the corner read, yesterday. Her hands began to tremble uncomfortably, because written across the back of the photo, in the same careful handwriting, were 6 words. I told you I was watching. A sound escaped her throat, half breath, half whimpered. Alyssa lifted her head, very carefully, toward the window, toward the dark. And at that moment, her face went completely white, because down on the street below, someone stood beside a parked car watching her window. Not Daniel, but someone who knew exactly where to look. The letter slipped from Alyssa's fingers as the full horror finally hit her. Daniel Mercer hadn't just been stalking her. He'd been preparing, teaching, passing the obsession on. Alyssa staggered back from the window in shock, realizing far too late she had never escaped him at all. So I hope you guys like that story. I have maybe 2 more stories that I was going to read for you. So the next story is called The Fortune of the Fae. It's about an evil little fairy. Alright? It says, tonight's tale is not one of innocence. It's not one of happy endings. It's a story about cleverness, about greed, about what happens when something ancient decides you owe it a debt. Lock your doors, dim your lights, and listen closely, because the forest remembers. Ellis was not like the other children. He was clever, too clever. Where others feared the woods, Ellis studied them. Where others told stories of spirits and fair folk, Ellis listened and learned. And one night he followed the stories, deep into the forest, past even where the bravest hunters turned back. He found it, a hollow beneath a twisted oak tree, and inside, treasure. Piles of it, jewels that shimmered like captured stars, coins older than memory, trinkets that whispered faintly when touched. And sitting atop it all, a creature. Small, pale, beautiful in a way that made your stomach turn. A small fairy. Its wings were thin as dead leaves, its eyes far too knowing. It smiled at Ellis, and Ellis smiled back. Ellis spoke kindly. He bowed, he pretended, he told the fairy stories, made it laugh, distracted it, until its attention wavered. And when it did, Ellis struck. He snatched what he could carry, gold, jewels, relics, and ran. Behind him, the fairy did not scream. It only whispered, "Run, you little thief. I will come when the dark is deepest." Ellis returned home a hero in his own mind. His family questioned him, but gold silenced his suspicion. Days passed, then weeks, and Ellis began to believe he had won. Until the night the wind stopped. Not slowed, but stopped. The air turned heavy. The night groaned, though something pressed against it from all sides. And then a soft tapping at the window. Ellis froze. His mother stirred in the next room. The tapping became scratching. The scratching became something worse. A sound like nails dragging across bones. The fairy had returned, but it was no longer small, no longer delicate. It had grown and twisted, stretched into something wrong. Its limbs too long, its smile split too wide, and its wings were gone, torn away, leaving only ragged, whispering edges. It entered without opening the door, and what it did that night, no kid should have ever witnessed it. Ellis hid, but he could hear everything. His father's voice cut short into silence. His mother's cries turning into something wet and broken. The sound of bones bending where they should not. The fairy did not kill quickly. It played. It whispered to them as it worked, reminded them of Ellis, of the gold, of the thief. Every scream carried his name. And Ellis ran, barefooted, breathless, sobbing into the forest. Branches tore at his skin, roots clawed at his feet. Behind him, something followed, not running, but gliding, always just behind. "You took what's mine, so I'll take what's yours." Ellis tripped, falling hard into the cold earth, and the fairy appeared before him, not chasing anymore, but waiting. It knelt beside him, gently, almost kindly, and placed a cold, delicate hand on his face. "You are a clever little boy," it whispered. "So now you will live to remember." Ellis screamed, but the force swallowed his sound. His limbs twisted, his spine bent, his voice fractured into something unrecognizable. His hands became claws. His skin darkened, roughened, blending with bark and shadows. By morning, the village found only ruins, the house soaked in silence, a family gone, but no sign of Ellis. They said he fled. They said he must have done something terrible. They said the forest took him. But sometimes, late at night, Travelers hear something moving just beyond the trees. Not quite animal, not quite human. Watching, waiting, and deeper still, beneath a twisted oak, the treasure remains untouched, but always guarded by something watching within the trees. Some say the forest punishes greed. Others say it simply keeps score. So if you ever find something that doesn't belong to you, ask yourself, is it treasure or is it a trap? So I hope you guys like that story. Alright, I have one more story. I hope you guys are enjoying yourself. I hope you really love these spooky stories. If you do, let me know and I can continue telling these for you. So this story is called The Immortal Kiss, The Suffering of a Vampire. Okay, step softly and keep your pulse slow. Tonight's tale is not one of sudden terror, but of something far crueler, a slow unraveling, a curse stretched across centuries. Tell me, what is worse than death? To never be allowed it. This is the story of a man who begged for mercy and received something far darker. The year was 1348. The air itself had begun to rot. The plague swept through the streets like a whisper from hell, unseen but unmistakable. Bells toll endlessly, not for weddings or celebrations, but for the dead, always for the dead. Inside a crumbling stone home, a man named Ellis lay trembling on a straw bed. His skin was gray, his lips cracked, his breath rattled like dry bones in a hollow chest. "Please," he croaked, reaching toward no one. "God or devil, I care not. Just end it." Outside, carts rode past, piled high with bodies, still moving, some of them. Ellis coughed and blood spilled from his mouth, thick and black. "I don't want to die like this," he whispered. "Alone, forgotten." The candle beside him flickered, and then it went still. A presence entered the room. Ellis's eyes widened as the figure emerged from the shadows, tall, cloaked, unmoving, as a statue carved from midnight. "Death has already claimed this town," the figure said, voice soft, almost kind. "But you still beg." The figure knelt beside him, pale face illuminated by the faint glow of the dying candle. "No," it said. "I am what remains." Wait, sorry. Ellis stared, too weak to recoil. Are you death?" he rasped. The figure knelt beside him, pale face illuminated by the faint glow of the dying candle. "No," it said. "I am what remains after death refuses you." A cold hand brushed Ellis's cheek. "You wish to live?" Ellis hesitated only a moment and then nodded desperately. "Yes, anything, please." The figure's lips curled almost pitiably. "Then you shall." And it leaned down, pressing its mouth to his throat. The scream that followed never reached the outside world. Ellis woke to silence. No coughing, no pain, no heartbeat. He sat up gasping, though no breath came. His body felt wrong, light, hollow. "Hello?" he called. No answer. He stumbled outside. The village was empty. Doors hung open, fires burned out, bodies gone. Only the lingering stench of death remained. "Where is everyone?" Ellis whispered. Then he heard it, a scratching. He turned slowly. A rat scurried across the cobblestones, and suddenly the hunger struck.
Hey, you
It was not like any hunger he had ever known. It clawed at him from the inside, a violent, screaming void. "No!" he murmured, backing away. "No, I'm not!" But his body moved without him. In a blink, he was upon it. The sound of bones snapping echoed in the empty streets. When he came to, the rat lay mangled in his hands, and his mouth was stained with red. Ellis gagged. "What have I become?" Years passed, then decades, then centuries, and still Ellis remained. Cities rose where his village once stood. Languages changed, faces blurred together, but one thing never changed: the hunger, the loneliness, the endless suffocating night. Ellis wandered from place to place, always searching. For what? He wasn't sure anymore. Perhaps the one who cursed him, perhaps others like him, perhaps an end. One night in a narrow alley slick with rain, Ellis heard footsteps. Slow, measured, familiar. He turned sharply. "Show yourself," he demanded. The figure stepped from the shadows, pale, still, unnatural. Ellis's hollow chest tightened. "You," he whispered. The vampire who had saved him, or damned him, stood before him once more. "You live," the creature said calmly. Ellis laughed a broken, hollow sound. "Live? This is not living. This is a nightmare that will not end." The creature tilted its head. "You begged me for life." "I begged for mercy," Ellis snapped. "Not this endless hunger, this isolation. I have watched everyone I've ever known turn to dust." His voice cracked. "I have forgotten my own heartbeat." Silence stretched between them. Finally, Ellis whispered, trembling, "Why did you do this to me?" The vampire stepped closer. "Because I was alone." Ellis froze. "I thought," the creature continued softly, "that if I gave you my gift, I would no longer walk eternity alone." Ellis stared at him, horror dawning deeper than ever before. "You didn't save me," he whispered. "You condemned me because you were afraid." The creature said nothing, because it was true. Ellis stepped back, shaking his head. "I hate you," and paused. "But I understand." And that was the cruelest part. Ellis turned away. "Will you end me?" he asked quietly. The vampire's voice came barely audible. "No, I will not take from you what I could not give myself." Ellis closed his eyes. Of course, even death was denied. And so he still walks through endless nights in empty streets, feeding on creatures that scurry in the dark, avoiding the warmth of human life that he can never touch, searching, always searching for salvation, not revenge, but for something even more fragile, someone who understands. So tell me, dear listener, if you were offered life, true life, beyond death, would you take it? Even if it meant watching the world fade while you remained. Even if it meant becoming something that no longer belonged to the living or the dead. Be careful what you beg for in your darkest hour, because something might be listening and it may answer. So, thank you for listening to my stories. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Would you like to hear one more? Anybody? Leave me a comment if you want to hear one more. One more?
Sure.
Alright, so I have one more. My necklace is malfunctioning. I have a wardrobe malfunctioning. It's come untied. We could just take this off. It's fine. Alright. So the last story is called When the Whippoorwill Calls. So in the South, we have whippoorwills. And there's a horrible legend to whippoorwills. If you hear one, that means that there's someone in your household that is close to death, or that the whippoorwill is sensing spirits. So I created this story about that situation. Okay? There are sounds in the night that comfort us. The hum of crickets, the whisper of wind through the pines. And then there are sounds that warn us. In the deep South, tucked between moss-stripped oaks and forgotten dirt roads, there is a bird whose song is not welcome but feared. They say when it calls, death is already listening. Tonight, I invite you to lean closer, but not too close to the window, because if you hear it, it may already be too late. The town of Brer Hollow wasn't on most of the maps. Just a fading name whispered between truck stops and old gas station. The kind of place where people sat on porches at night and locked their doors before the sun ever set. Because in Brer Hollow, people knew better, especially about the bird. Clara Whitmore had just moved into her grandmother's house, a crooked aging thing surrounded by tall grass and shadows, thick woods. She didn't believe in the stories, not really, but her grandmother did. Before she died, she had grabbed Clara's wrist, and with trembling fingers she whispered, "If you hear the call of the whippoorwill, don't answer it. Don't look for it. And whatever you do, Clara, don't let it finish its song." Clara thought it was just grief talking until the first night. It started right after midnight, a single call. "Whippoorwill." Clara froze in bed, staring at the ceiling. The sound was wrong, too deliberate, too close. And then it came again. "Whippoorwill, whippoorwill." Closer now, right outside the window. She pulled the curtains back just an inch and saw nothing, but the sound stopped, as if it knew she was looking. The next morning, Clara laughed it off at the diner in town. Old Miss Delaney, who had lived there her entire life, didn't laugh back. She leaned forward and slowly said, "Did it sound like it was calling for someone or counting?" Clara blinked. "Counting?" Miss Delaney nodded, her face pale. "They say when it calls once for your breath, and then after that for every breath that you got left." That night, Clara tried to ignore it, but the bird returned, louder, slower, more patient. "Whippoorwill." One call, then silence. Again, "Whippoorwill." Two. Clara sat up in bed, heart pounding. 3. Her breath hitched. 4. The air felt heavy, thick with something unseen that entered the room. 5. She clenched her chest. "Stop!" she whispered, but it didn't. 6, 7, 8. The window creaked open on its own, and that's when Clara saw it. Not a bird, not really. It perched on the windowsill, its body thin and unnatural, its eyes too deep, glowing faintly like dying embers. Its mouth opened, not a beak, but something wider, wrong. And when it called again, it didn't sound like a bird anymore. It sounded like a voice, like a human voice, her grandmother's voice. 9. Clara screamed. She ran barefoot, wild-eyed into the woods behind her house, branches clawing at her skin, and the call followed her, not from behind, but from every direction. 10. She tripped, hitting the ground hard. The forest went silent, completely silent. No wind, no insects, no life. Just that thing now standing before her, no longer shaped like a bird, no longer pretending, The voice was layered, overlapping, whispers of everyone she had ever known. "It's not a warning," it said softly. "It's an invitation." Clara shook her head, backing away. "No!" The thing tilted its head. "You heard my call." Its mouth stretched into something like a smile. "And you counted." The next morning, they found Clara just beyond the tree line. No signs of struggle, just stillness, and her face frozen in a look of absolute, unspeakable terror. That night, in Brer Hollow, the whippoorwill called again. Some say the whippoorwill steals the soul as it leaves the body, trapping it, carrying it, claiming it. Others believe it doesn't take anything at all. It simply waits until you give yourself away. So tonight, if you hear something calling from the dark, don't count, don't listen, and whatever you do, don't answer. Because it might already know your name.
Thanks for coming on, Battle Midnight, and sharing your spooky stories.
Okay. Thank you guys, and I hope you loved my stories. Just leave me a comment and leave me a message and let me know if you like these, and I can continue making these for you because I really enjoy reading stories and creating stories for you.
And can you also tell them where they can find you on social media?
Yes, so I'm on Spotify, iHeartRadio, I'm on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music, and True Fans. Also, I'm doing a giveaway, so anyone who wants one of these, you just leave a comment and say, "I am a Darkling," and you can get a free tumbler. So, we have 3 different kinds. We have this one. We have the Garbage Pail Madam Midnight, which is cute. And we also have one more. Find it. Okay. We also have this one, which is very cute. I really like this one. So if anyone wants a tumbler for free, just leave your name and I'll get in touch with you. And yeah, you can send me your address and I will send it to you.
Thanks everyone once again for joining the Mixperience podcast. You can also find us on YouTube, Spotify. We have new content coming out just about every other week, and we'll also have Madam Midnight back on here in the future with some more of her spooky stories. So if you guys like this content, just send me some messages and let me know, and we'll have her back on, and you guys can find her on all her social medias and also live on TikTok. So we're live right now, so tune in as we tune out. Thanks for joining.
Good night.
Good.
Oh, we are fire.
Yeah.
So that's it. Was that
I mean, we're
good?
still live, but that don't matter. So we're done recording.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's good.
I messed up a little bit there for a
Well,
minute.
The more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah,
And it don't matter if you mess up.
just a little bit. A few
I mean,
words.
nobody's perfect.
Yeah. And it's live. I mean, you can't. You know. I enjoyed that. I really liked it.
I sent you some hearts, so you got like 1,500 likes.
Wow.
You had a bunch of them on there too.
That's awesome.
Everybody was joining and listening in on it too.
Good.
I was watching your phone and watching that part too.
I'm still live though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining on TikTok and joining in and listening to Madam Midnight's stories. If you like this content, just let her know, and she'll be back on sharing more stories in the future. So, and maybe we can do it on. If I thought about it, I'd have done it live on mine too, because I got like 5,000 something weird followers.
We'll do it again. I got more. I got a lot of stories. Did you like it?
But the limit on the recording, we can only do like 2 hours straight,
Okay.
which we didn't get nowhere near that.
Yeah. The stories are only like 5 or 6 minutes.
Did you write all those? Or was it
Yeah.
just- Pretty good.
Yeah, I wish I could make a book. Like I want to make a book of short stories.
Well, let's see how you done. Welcome to the Mixperience podcast once again.
Should I turn mine
Tonight
off?
we have
Live on.
Madam Midnight with Shadow Hour.
Hello, my darklings. This is Madam Midnight. Welcome to the Shadow Hour. Keep your candle burning because I have some spooky stories for you tonight. So let's begin. Tonight's first story is called The Last Customer. Alyssa hated the quiet. It wasn't the comforting kind.